The construct, it's incredible. It's large, it's massive.
Wow.
They were never meant to uncover this. Not now, not later, maybe not at all. Beneath Oak Island, past the flooded shafts, past the deadly traps, past everything that has already claimed 6 lives, a sealed space has finally been revealed. And the instant they saw what was inside, the story changed forever. Because this wasn't gold, this wasn't luck, this was evidence. Evidence that someone reached Oak Island centuries earlier than official history says was possible. And whatever they created underground, they went to extreme lengths to make sure it stayed hidden. The structure wasn't buried casually. It was concealed behind layers of engineering so advanced that modern experts still argue over how it could have been built with the tools of that era. So stop and think about this. If it was never meant to be discovered, who built it? What were they guarding? And why are some researchers suddenly refusing to talk? Stay with me, because once you learn what was found inside this chamber, you'll understand why Oak Island may no longer be just a treasure hunt, but something far darker. And before we go any further, make sure you're subscribed, because you won't want to miss what comes next. Now, let's go underground. A doorway carved from stone. Even after years of astonishing finds, Spanish coins, medieval symbols, ancient wooden platforms, this one rattled Rick and Marty Lagina. Decades of failed digs and broken hopes have made them careful, almost guarded. But this discovery reignited something. Rick could already see the pattern forming. Every strange artifact, every anomaly, suddenly snapping into place like pieces of a single, terrifying puzzle. Marty, ever the realist, focused on the build itself. Reinforced timber, layered stone, precision craftsmanship. Whoever made this wasn't hiding scraps. They were safeguarding something that mattered far beyond this island. And that's what has everyone holding their breath. This wasn't random, it wasn't accidental, it was intentional and built to endure. The breakthrough came near the eastern edge of the swamp, an area earlier teams brushed off as meaningless. The Laginas never agreed. They've always believed Oak Island is one giant misdirection, a maze meant to exhaust and deceive. That belief is exactly why this discovery matters so much. It wasn't luck that revealed it, it was technology. Advanced radar imaging exposed something no one expected. A clear layout, a starting point. From there, drilling began. Small, carefully angled access points, designed to avoid collapse. When the probe camera finally descended, the footage stunned everyone. Smooth stone walls, layered construction, wooden beams untouched by water or time. This wasn't just ancient, it was preserved. Decades ago, no one would have believed it. But today, the data doesn't lie. Drills roared, soil was removed inch by inch. The past slowly emerged, intact wooden supports, hand-stacked stones placed with impossible accuracy. Then, nearly 80 feet down, after a sharp turn west, they struck something solid. Not loose rock, not debris, a wall. And not just any wall. It was unnervingly smooth, made from a type of granite, laced with dark mineral veins, not found anywhere nearby. Embedded at perfect intervals were iron fasteners, hand-forged, corroded by centuries, but unmistakably deliberate. This wasn't nature. This wasn't coincidence. This was design. They had reached the outer boundary of the chamber, and then something unexpected happened. A vibration. Subtle at first, then stronger. One surface sensor went dead. Another began spiking wildly. Pressure surged along the southern edge of the site. No one moved. Data flooded the screens. Something beneath them was shifting. For the first time, Oak Island didn't just feel ancient. It felt awake. They knew they couldn't stop. What began years ago as the idea of a single tunnel has now revealed itself as something far more complex. Radar and probe cameras exposed branching pathways, offshoots splitting from the main shaft, turning with purpose. Some descend deeper, others curve sharply, forming a labyrinth. This isn't a tunnel, it's a system, a buried engineered network, and there's nothing accidental about it. The Laginas weren't the first to suggest an underground grid, but until now, there was no proof. Ideas without evidence are just speculation. That changes here. As the team mapped the structure, disturbing patterns emerged. Perfect right angles, parallel passages, repeating dimensions. These weren't natural formations. They were architectural, and they seemed designed not to support the tunnels, but to protect something deeper. That's when the old theories came rushing back. The Templars. For centuries, Oak Island has been linked to the Knights Templar, a secretive order rumored to have fled Europe with immense wealth. Records place their journeys along the Atlantic. Maps, coded texts, and French artifacts found on the island have long pointed toward Nova Scotia. Skeptics mocked it. Historians hesitated. But now, faced with a precise multi-level underground network, no one is laughing. And then there's the trapdoor theory. Whispered about for generations, it suggests a false floor buried somewhere beneath the island, possibly hiding the real chamber, or hiding nothing at all. One wrong move, one careless dig, and everything collapses. Not revealing history, but erasing it. Remote scans now give that theory weight. Imaging revealed two distinct floor layers within the chamber zone. That's not how natural cavities form. Sonar showed solid material above empty space, and beneath that, another irregular void. A secondary chamber. A false floor? No one wants to find out the hard way. Excavation stopped immediately. Instead, ground-penetrating sonar was deployed from multiple angles. What came back was even more troubling. Small metal objects embedded near the chamber walls. Not modern, not random, precisely placed. Hinges, braces, structural triggers. Whatever they are, they weren't accidental. And that changes everything. Because if the trapdoor theory is true, this structure was never meant to be opened. It wasn't built to decay. It wasn't built to be found. It was built to destroy itself, by design. And Oak Island has done this before. Since the 1700s, every serious attempt has ended in disaster. Collapsing tunnels, sudden floods that fill shafts in minutes, artifacts that vanish without explanation. It's almost as if the island is defending itself. And the most disturbing part? The warnings were always there. We just didn't listen. Up on the surface, the team was fighting the elements. Wind, rain, delays. But even as the weather pushed back, the island kept giving up clues, each one pointing straight back to the hidden trap system below. Near the swamp, they uncovered something unexpected. A stone pathway. Flat, patterned, pressed deep into the mud like an ancient road. At first, some dismissed it as natural, just another odd formation. But that explanation collapsed the moment Gary Drayton swept his metal detector across it. Iron signals lit up beneath the stones. And that changed everything. What if this path was never meant for walking? What if it was camouflage, designed to hide mechanisms buried underneath? That's when the realization hit. Oak Island isn't random. It's defensive. A fortress built in layers, leaving clues like breadcrumbs, guiding some forward while misleading everyone else. And as the team struggled against the chamber's underground defenses, the rest of the island began revealing pieces of a much larger and far more disturbing story. Everywhere they looked, the message was the same. someone with immense power and resources was here. A very long time ago. Take Lot 5, an area that confused researchers for decades. When Gary's detector suddenly went berserk, the team knew something was coming. From the soil emerged a hammered bronze coin, dated to roughly 500 years ago. Here's the issue. Hammered coins fell out of use in Europe once machine-minted currency took over in the 1400s. That means this coin was already old before the money pit was ever supposed to exist. But even that wasn't the most shocking find. Later, another coin surfaced, this one copper. Experts traced it back to Roman or Byzantine origins, placing it somewhere between 300 BC and 600 AD. Stop and think about that. A 2,000-year-old Roman-era coin on a small island off the coast of North America. Chemical testing revealed silver and arsenic levels consistent with pre-1500 metallurgy, confirming it wasn't a modern fake. That single artifact obliterated the accepted timeline of who could have reached Oak Island and when. And it didn't stand alone. The stone roadway in the swamp matched ancient Roman road construction almost perfectly, especially those found in Portugal, a region long associated with the Knights Templar. The pieces weren't just fitting together. They were reaching further back in time than anyone expected. Then came the horseshoe. Buried near the stone path, the team recovered a small, hand-forged horseshoe. An expert dated it to the early 1400s, over 600 years old. Even more shocking, the expert suggested it might be the oldest metal artifact ever found in the swamp, possibly even older than the Roman coin. That means a horse stood on Oak Island centuries before history says anyone should have been there. And horses don't arrive alone. They arrive on large ocean-going ships. For years, theories like this were brushed off as fantasy. But now, there was physical proof. A horse, Roman influence, medieval coins. So who was here? The answers weren't limited to metal. Stone carvings began to surface, etched with strange, deliberate symbols. One showed a circle, with a central dot intersected by a cross. Identical markings appear at 12th century Templar sites in Portugal. Even stranger was the carving of a goose. To most people, it means nothing. But to historians, it's a known symbol used by stonemasons working under the Templars, a discreet signature left behind to mark their work. This wasn't vandalism, it wasn't coincidence, it was an intentional sign. From a Roman coin to a medieval horseshoe to unmistakable Templar markings, the island wasn't whispering anymore. It was shouting. These finds weren't isolated. They formed a trail, and that trail led underground. After the granite wall began to tremble, the team backed off. Everyone braced for chaos, but instead, something far stranger happened. Silence, then movement. A section of the once flawless wall began to fail. Ancient iron rivets, corroded by centuries, finally gave way, pulling part of the granite face inward. A dark opening appeared where none had existed before. Carefully, cameras were lowered on long cables. Then the team looked for themselves. What they saw defied belief. The chamber was real and untouched, roughly 20 by 30 feet, capped with a domed ceiling supported by massive timber beams blackened by age. Along the walls were precisely carved alcoves, evenly spaced. Inside them sat objects, but not treasure in the usual sense. There were no gold piles, no jewel-filled chests. Instead, there were sealed scroll tubes, dozens of them, closed with hardened wax. Heavy wooden chests, reinforced with thick iron bands, far too massive for a small crew to move. Cloth-wrapped bundles that crackled faintly as camera lights passed over them. And at the exact center of the chamber stood a stone pedestal. On top of it rested a square object, encased in thick, crude glass. The camera moved closer. It was a manuscript, too fragile to touch. Pages faded beyond easy reading. Binding delicate, ancient, irreplaceable. Beside it lay a ceremonial metal object, cross-like but not Christian. Its design felt older, marked with symbols resembling Phoenician or North African script. The implications were staggering. This wasn't pirate loot. This wasn't stolen gold. This was preserved knowledge. Rick stood frozen in front of the monitor. Marty paced, fists clenched. What they'd uncovered wasn't a treasure. It was a library, a sealed archive of lost history. But now comes the hardest question. What happens next? Opening the chamber fully could destroy everything. The artifacts might crumble to dust. Worse, disturbing the structure could cause a collapse, wiping out the chamber forever. So the team made a choice. They sealed it again. World-renowned archaeologists and preservation experts are now being brought in. Because what lies inside that chamber doesn't belong to one family or one island. It belongs to humanity. And that decision, to reseal the chamber, may be the most controversial move in Oak Island history. Because for the first time in over 2 centuries, the team isn't asking how to get inside. They're asking whether they should at all. Specialists reviewing the footage immediately raised red flags. The wax-sealed scroll tubes appear organic, possibly papyrus or early parchment. Exposing them to oxygen alone could erase their contents in seconds. The manuscript at the center, even more fragile. Early analysis suggests hand-pressed pages, possibly predating medieval European bookmaking entirely. If that's true, it places the object outside any known North American historical framework. Then there's the pedestal. Why place a single item at the center of the chamber? Not stored, not hidden away, displayed. As if it wasn't just being preserved, but honored, guarded, revered. And that raises a disturbing possibility. What if the chamber wasn't built to protect treasure, but to protect information? What if what's hidden here was considered too dangerous to lose and too dangerous to share? As experts debate next steps, another detail is quietly unsettling researchers. The chamber's alignment. Preliminary measurements suggest it was constructed with astronomical precision. The central pedestal aligns with solstice markers when projected upward through the island's geography. This wasn't random placement. It was intentional, symbolic, possibly ritualistic. And then there's the silence. Several outside consultants who initially reviewed the findings have since withdrawn from public discussion. No interviews, no statements, no follow-ups. In the Oak Island world, that kind of quiet speaks louder than any press release. Some believe the chamber connects to a much older network, one that predates the Templars entirely. A lineage of knowledge passed hand to hand across civilizations, Phoenicians, Romans, early North African explorers, groups whose maritime capabilities far exceeded what we were ever taught. If even part of that is true, Oak Island isn't an anomaly. It's a node, a waypoint in a forgotten global system that existed long before Columbus, long before the modern map of the world was drawn. And that would explain the obsession with secrecy, the traps, the misdirection, the sheer scale of effort poured into hiding something no one was meant to stumble upon, not casually, not accidentally, not ever. As the team prepares for what comes next, one thing is clear. This discovery has crossed a line. It's no longer about solving a mystery. It's about responsibility. Once knowledge like this is uncovered, it can't be buried again. And how it's revealed may matter as much as what it reveals. Oak Island has guarded its secret for centuries. It has flooded tunnels, collapsed shafts, claimed lives. And now, finally, it has opened a door. But the question remains, did it open it as an invitation or as a warning? Because some doors, once opened, change history forever. And whatever that manuscript contains could rewrite everything we think we know about the past. They found the chamber, but the real mystery is just beginning. What secrets are locked inside those pages? Who went to such extraordinary lengths to hide them? Was this the work of the Knights Templar, or something far older? Drop your theories in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe, because this story is far from over.